Beneath a red sky, a girl sprints desperately through a dark and gloomy alley. Behind her, a masked man with a blade chases her, begging her not to run. He stalks the young girl, whispering she should be good. Then, with a cruel grin, he lunges forward with his sharp blade to hurt her. But then a strange young man steps forward, putting himself between the girl and the danger. The blade hits the boy's chest, and he stumbles back from the hard blow. Realizing he'd been tricked, the assailant turns furious at the boy for getting involved. Even with a wound deep and dark, the hero steps forward without fear, gripping the blade tight to meet the villain. The young man's red liquid begins to drip onto the ground, gradually making a small puddle. Suddenly, a spark of power strikes him in the mind, sending ripples through his thoughts. Suddenly, his eyes flew open to show a bright blue iris glowing with power. Next, the protagonist wakes up in his bed and realizes it was all just a dream. But walking through the house, he sees a news report on TV showing the exact scene from his nightmare. And while brushing his teeth, he discovers that the victim was a culprit responsible for more than 10 crimes, with the criminals always targeting young, defenseless women. The scene shifts to a building where a graduation trip is mentioned, but our hero arrives at a hotel, hoping for one last adventure before growing up. He follows a map to a cafe named Tamahara, only to find it closed, yet he insists on going anyway as a kind of training. And as the owner bids him farewell and wishes her energetic son had more of the same, he turns to look at the strange-looking young man standing nearby. Atsunomiya Kaido isn't into baths, so our hero scolds him about his weird habits and job, but then a suitcase flies out the window and smacks Ko right in the face, showering the ground with women's underwear just as Kaido's mom yells for him to get a job before he grabs his bags and walks away while the hero watches. Later, we see a photo of him with a creepy smile. Then a heavy rain starts soaking everything while a battered Ko tries to escape our hero in the water, who throws him down hard and hurts him. But when the photographer begs for help, the hero grabs him by the hair and ignores his pleas until the photographer asks who that guy is and tells him to let go right now. The hooded young man coldly knocks the guy down, stomps on KO's head to keep him from rising, and then spots a memorial with a girl's photo inside the cafe. He kept pictures of the young woman on his computer, smiled creepily as he peered through her bedroom door, while strangers online discuss the files and photos. It looks like Ko runs this chat room and sells special entry codes to the premium members. He grinned greedily, realizing the photos had earned him 600,000 yen. The photographer feels like a winner after making so much money, but kneeling on the ground, he hears the hero accuse him of killing the girl, so without thinking twice, the hero stabs the photographer in the neck with a sharp injection. Kaido tries to deny it, but the young man admits he was hired by the victim's mother and says his job is done, then backs away as the girl's furious ghost, surrounded by lightning, hands the hero a shiny object as payment. The young man takes the money and holds the object in his hands with great care. The young man stares on with a grave look, watching the rain-soaked scene while the photographer screams for his life in the distance. The protagonist looked shaken by the loud cries and quickly pressed his hands over his ears to stop hearing them. After everything, the young man turns to leave the cafe into the heavy rain, but alone on the dark road, he keeps walking without looking back until he sees the sky darkening and the storm worsening, so he decides to turn around. Standing at the bus stop, he waits for the vehicle with its bright lights on to finally roll up. A car pulls up and the young man prepares to enter, but a terrified stranger is suddenly thrown from the bus, bumps into him, and runs away screaming that the door opened, leaving the protagonist to climb into the empty, driverless vehicle where a creepy robotic voice insists everyone sit down as the bus lurches forward on its own, repeating the warning and making the air feel thick with tension. The young man finds the warnings very strange and starts to wonder what's going on. He looks around at the other passengers and wonders why none of them seem worried. A tall, bald man tells him to sit down as a strange electric voice speaks, and right then a bright blue shock of electricity rises from the bus floor, leaving the main character shocked and confused. He suddenly understands that failing to follow the rules has cost him this penalty. As another person standing nearby gets hit by electric shocks and falls to the floor, realizing it's real and not a dream, the bald man explains that he has brought them onto a bus heading straight for disaster to lay down the rules, while the big guy grabs him by the clothes and demands he obey everything without complaint. So the terrified young man agrees to do anything he's told as long as he isn't hurt. And when he pretends to cooperate by asking what's going on, the man reveals that the bus travels between the surface world and a dangerous underworld full of spirits, where they must fight monsters at each stage until one side loses, and everyone on board is there because they are all running away from some sin they committed on the surface. The young man claims he's only a student, but the bald man clearly doesn't buy it, while other passengers warn him not to trust anyone since not everyone there is good, and a couple of bad kids even bet that he'll lose before the game even starts. Our hero stood there, listening to their talk with a very serious face. He believes he's only ever fought escaped criminals who deserve punishment, but a terrified man screams that another stop is here and the monsters are coming, right after the system announces they are arriving at Moon Lake and tells everyone to get ready. Suddenly, the bald man hits another passenger hard in the face without even a warning. The big guy yells at the fallen man to keep quiet since he's now perfect bait, while the tattooed woman drags someone else away and warns that anyone who breaks the rules will become bait. The young man's eyes harden with resolve as he knows he must seem useful to stay alive. The girl warns him to get off, or she'll feed him to the monsters. With cold sweat breaking out, the hero nervously moves to the bus door and gasps when he sees a clawed shadow staring back from the window. The young man leaps back, screaming about a ghost, but the others grin wickedly while the bald man warns that this is only where the real adventure begins. As the group steps out into the darkness, the young woman grabs the protagonist's arm, teasing him about being scared before he complains, only for her to snap and kick him hard in the stomach. He lies on the ground and apologizes as the young woman glares at him, surprised that he wasn't hurt by the blow and telling him to come with her. The young woman warns that he'll be dead if he stays, while the bald man and his friend decide to use the tied-up man as a lure for the monsters. The hanging man is badly injured and looks like he's not waking up right now. In a last-ditch effort to save his life, the desperate man begs them to set him free. He shouts that he has plenty of money to give them anything they want, but the big guy says cash means nothing there while an old couple watches, and the hero holds a blade, wondering if he should try to save the man. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the warehouse, and everyone jumped to their feet on high alert. The leader yells that the monsters have arrived, causing the old couple to panic as he tosses explosive packets to everyone for defense, leaving the young man confused by the bald man's large stash just as a horde of red-eyed shadow creatures appears and one leaps toward the suspended bait. The monster shows the man a terrible woman's face that scares him, then stares back with hate and says it has been waiting for him. She screams that he destroyed everything and refuses to ever forgive him while his claws slash closer to his face as he cries out in agony. As dark liquid drips from the man's limp body, the creature holds his face while dark energy flows from its hands, then grins with sharp teeth and red eyes before sadness takes over, causing him to scream that he only took their money, only for the ghost to reveal that he stole her husband's life, which she now sees as draining their blood. So she claws at him with vengeful fury while other ghosts appear behind her, making him panic as she cries over the suffering they all endured. In that memory, we watch the man speed down the road while shouting over the pleas of people begging for their money back. He gave a wicked grin and refused to bow to their wishes. Without even pausing to think, he slams the gas pedal and speeds straight toward the crowd. The car roars toward a crowd of protesters shouting for justice, ignoring a desperate woman who begs for help by showing her husband's burn injury and medical bills, only for him to speed away and scatter her papers as she hits the ground. Some rush forward to help her as the driver speeds away without looking back. We watch the woman stay lying on the street while the car drives off into the distance without stopping to help. Standing on the street, she gets a call that her husband took too much medicine, and in her shock, she finds him gone. Devastated, she falls to her knees, crying out in blame before deciding to end her suffering, only for the ghost to then attack the suspended man as the protagonist realizes he was indeed a sinner. A bald man shouts at the young man as the group throws explosives at the monsters, but after a huge blast knocks everyone down, the hero calmly slices a surviving creature in half, only for the group to later realize the missing couple isn't wandering off and might be in trouble if they don't find them before supplies run out. The impatient leader yells for the dozing group to wake up and start searching, so the four of them set off, with the big guy climbing a wall to spot clues while a strange sound suddenly makes the young man turn his head. Hearing the noise, he warns everyone that more monsters are coming, so the group keeps searching through the plantation while the bald man gets annoyed. The hero finds the place too quiet, and the blonde guy tells him not to relax, until they spot an old man with a huge axe who says the couple they seek was here earlier asking for food, confirming their last name is Haramoto and that they were hurt by some animal, which makes the hero realize how strange it is that the village looks so normal. So they follow him to his house where the lady greets them with a smile, and they eat warm bread while a fat man runs in excitedly, and the father jokes that his son is not very smart. People begin to grab food to try the feast. After the group enjoys a hearty meal, and the elders suggest staying overnight to dodge wolves and roaring bears, the hero agrees to wait it out since they're running low on ammo. Back in the room where the protagonist snores on the bottom bunk while his friend rests above, a shadowy figure suddenly flashes against the window, making the couple in the other room scream in terror as the blonde guy charges out to find the homeowner's son holding a rake, only to furiously accuse him of spying on his woman and give chase. While the man gets beaten up, he still calls the girl beautiful, which makes the angry blonde guy even more furious, until the father steps in to calm things down and suggests they talk in the living room, where the host bluntly offers money to buy the girlfriend, offending the couple and making the blonde guy mad at his boldness, only for the old man to reveal he's being hunted too, using that as a way to control the situation. Angrily, the blonde guy smashes a glass on the floor and prepares to attack the old man, but a shadowy figure suddenly appears and hits him hard on the head, knocking him down while the homeowner's son keeps striking the fallen man and yelling, as the elderly couple quietly discuss payment for the girl before the son enters the room to watch the sleeping woman with a strange look, unaware that she is soundly asleep and doesn't notice him. With a creepy smile, the young man crept closer to the bed to do something to her. The girl jolts awake to a terrifying sight of a man on top of her, and by the next morning, the host is in a panic because he knows something is terribly wrong. He screams that the tattooed couple and the blonde man have vanished, but the bald man doesn't believe they'd run without saying goodbye. So the group gathers, and the hero feels something is wrong since the bus isn't leaving, and the young man suspects the worst, while the host acts concerned and claims the whole village is searching, only for a resident to burst in shouting that things are terrible after they find just scraps of clothes blamed on wild animals, leaving the hero to spot a piece of torn black cloth on the ground nearby. He and the bald man spot the couple's clothes and wonder what really happened. So the bald man grabs the protagonist while the young man looks confused, and without wasting time, the group's leader tells him to pretend he's looking for clues while the bald man whispers that the village is a dangerous setup and that the residents are the real threat. But then the elderly couple starts crying, and the protagonist realizes they are on the resident's side, so the old woman suggests staying a few more days while the bald man wants to leave, causing the young man to act scared and shout that he won't go back while the leader grabs him and pretends to be angry. But then the big guy throws the young man to the ground, steps on his chest, and fakes a fight to trick the others by claiming they were done for leaving the village alone. After an elderly couple helps the young man up and warns him that the world outside is dangerous, they invite him to a feast where he pretends to get drunk while they marvel at his youth. As the clock strikes midnight, the young man gets ready to make his plan a reality. Lying in bed, he opens his eyes and rises with a firm decision to uncover the truth, his glowing eyes ready to explore the mysterious village while he walks outside with a flashlight, hunting for clues about the couple. After prying open a mysterious trapdoor with a crowbar, the hero discovers a terrified girl tied up in the dark cellar, quickly faking a rescue to trick the suspicious old man who just left them alone. The girl said sorry and thanked him for saving her from that mess. The scene shifts to show the village waking up under the morning sun. He warns that the only way out is to be picked up by the residents at night, explaining that their tight-knit group fiercely protects their own against strangers, so any suspicious daytime movement would turn them all against the outsiders, which leaves the group vulnerable in this strange place. He reveals that the others will be taken by the leader while her boyfriend is already gone, causing the desperate girl to grab him and beg for answers, only to learn the elderly couple tried to buy her, and her boyfriend was forced away, so she rips her clothes to fake an attack and trick the residents. The protagonist questions her, and she insists they stage a real incident, so the girl lies on the cellar floor to perfect the act while the host praises the young man's boldness, and the protagonist smiles back. Walking through the village, the young man notices he is being watched, and when he peeks into a barred window to hear a trapped woman claim she is sane, two residents rush in to silence her, causing her to cower in fear and beg them to stop the torment until she finally gives up and promises to obey, while another resident asks if the young man is the new adopted son, prompting him to hide his silence with a fake smile even as the residents mock him and he clenches his fist, barely holding back the urge to finish them all right there. As night comes down, the old man and woman call out that dinner is ready for all. The young man smiles and takes the bowl, leading the way as the older couple follows right behind him. He quietly slips a strange liquid into the food to poison the residents. The young boy then brings dinner to the other two, saying he will take the food to them. The old couple began eating the meat without any worry and enjoyed their feast. Suddenly, the elderly couple collapses from sharp stomach pains and dizziness, forcing the young man and the girl to sprint hand in hand to the leader, who reveals he poisoned the residents' food. So the pair flees through the dark village as the owner's son, with glowing eyes, tries to stop them, only to be knocked down by the hero, who then dodges another furious charge before being cornered by villagers wielding farm tools while the girl falls in the forest and begs not to be left behind, leading the residents to split up and hunt them while the couple hides in a dark alley. The hero isn't sure they've left yet, but the girl says to wait, and then suddenly she holds up a pickaxe that surprises both of them. She screams and tells everyone she found two hidden fugitives, so the hero quickly knocks her out before she can strike back. As she falls, she asks if they didn't hear a voice, and the young man urges them to hurry. They hear a call for help, and the hero realizes it's the mysterious voice they've been looking for. With a hairpin, the young man works the lock open with practiced ease. The girl is shocked by what the student did, and when they enter the cell, a terrible smell makes her complain, while the imprisoned woman cowers in the corner, saying she will never try to escape again. After the young man asks if she is okay and confirms she called for help, she nervously asks if he is also from that strange village, and in her desperation, she introduces herself and begs him to tell her family what happened. So he calms her down and promises to help her escape, but she then asks only for a lighter for one last wish. And as he gives it to her and they walk away to leave her alone, she cries, holding the lighter as she prepares to do what she must. Deep in the woods, the fleeing couple discovers the bald man has been waiting for them. The group's leader pulls out a weapon and gets ready to fight the people who live there. One resident spots them and yells for the others to grab the girl, so the bald man tosses a weapon to her and tells the boy to hide before she shoots at the residents to make a way out, scaring them away. But after the bald man checks on the old couple and the girl says the boyfriend deserves to stay dead forever, the furious residents vow revenge and realize the cell door is open, letting the prisoner escape. Suddenly, a fire erupts in one house and spreads fast, sending desperate residents rushing to save their village while a woman imprisoned by them smiles in revenge as flames consume everything, trapping a man who begs to be left alone and leaving an elderly couple who ate poisoned food writhing in pain on the floor, while the woman walks into the fire for a final act, ignoring their cries for help that the flames now block. The fire races through the house, burning up everything in its way. As the ceiling gives way and crushes the screaming elderly couple with no escape, their spirits drift out of the burning home and fly over to the waiting bus, where the hero watches from a window as the screen reveals they died, only for a hidden recording to expose their dark secret of trafficking people, leading the hero to realize humans can be scarier than ghosts, just as the game's score reveals the bald man at the top, while the others mock him with hidden points explained but ignored. They show that the leader controls how you swap points for supplies. The screen also displays how hurt everyone is, showing the bald man has taken 20 hits. The girl is carrying 30 injury points, while the protagonist is at their full limit of 50. The girl taunts him about his low score and how he now needs her, which makes the young man think hard about what he can trade his injury points for before he finally gets an idea. Suddenly, a strange choice pops up that lets you touch the real world for just 2 minutes. He asks if the place is truly a reflection of reality, and the bald man nods in agreement. The hero makes a deal, spending his points to buy the chance to make a call. The girl thinks the reward is useless, but the bald man insists that no one from the outside can help. He explains he wants to reach Mako Ida's parents, and as the system connects the call, the others watch with curiosity. When the line opens, the hero introduces himself as Mo's friend to build trust, learning that she vanished a decade ago and asking to speak to her. The woman grips her lighter, remembering the promise she made to herself, and flashes back to the fire she started and the lives it took. A young man then reveals that because of the remote location, no one survived the blaze. He exposes the shocking truth that the village traded people like livestock, selling students for just a few coins. After wondering if Mako started the fire for revenge, the hero sadly reveals that she didn't survive the blaze herself, only to share her final words, that she loved them and wished to be their daughter again. In the picture, we see a happy Mako with her parents after she did really well in school. She was a brilliant scientist who worked in the lab with amazing talent. She then loses all hope, realizing she has been tricked and that her time has come. The bus screen starts counting down to the next part of the game. The protagonist wonders how long this can go on in the real world, but when the girl tells him his points have been taken away, his anger boils over at the unfairness and the system's cold logic, only to be met with a sharp scolding from the girl when he questions everyone else's lack of kindness. A young woman scolds a bald man for trying to stop a fight, defending him for saving them last time before he warns them to save their strength for the next challenge as they gear up in the Buzel, buy weapons with public points, and share a private meal where she teases him with a strawberry, only for him to get annoyed and her to snap back just as the bus lurches forward, revealing they've arrived at the Sunlit Psycha High School where a confused uniformed man scolds them, yanks the protagonist's ear, and leads them into a classroom where the textbooks suddenly fill with terrifying red words that seem to jump off the page. The scene shifts to the school at night, where a cloudy sky and a crescent moon hang above. The young man claims the face is aimed right at her, so the girl pleads for help, tries to stop the hero from using her as a shield, and offers to fight instead. With a serious look, she braces herself for her fate, but the bald man tells her to survive on her own, leaving her in a state of desperation. She insists she didn't do anything wrong, but the young man insists she has to admit it. Desperate, she begs the leader for help, but he cares only about survival, so she clings to the bald man and pleads for understanding, while a young man pushes her to confess why only her notebook held those words and accuses her of her sins even as she denies it and screams that it wasn't her fault, leaving her alone in the schoolyard watching others while feeling out of place and watched by everyone. The young girl assumes she's safe because everyone attends the same school. Suddenly, a classmate grabs her shoulder to invite her to a weekly Wednesday ghost story night, but as the girls gather with snacks and juice in the dimly lit dorm room, she quietly excuses herself by saying she's not feeling well and just wants to sleep early. One of the girls insists she hear just one story before sleep, so another begins whispering about a ghost with knife wounds that haunts the hallway, which scares one listener so much they immediately ask who was responsible for the bullying. The girl lying on the bed freezes in fear as she realizes they are speaking about her. Her eyes go wide with fear as she is swept back to that awful day. In one memory, the girl is huddled on the floor while everyone else stand around her. A group of mean girls mocks and scares the victim until she feels trapped. Then their leader grabs her hair and orders her to humiliate herself. So when she refuses, the leader smiles sadly and pulls out a shiny box cutter, terrifying the victim further as she cuts herself in front of the shocked group. The other girls try to calm her down and tell her she's scared the victim enough. Feeling betrayed by her friend's cowardice, she kicks them out and leaves the victim alone. But when the girl tries to run, the attacker grabs her with the box cutter and corners her again, forcing the scared friends to flee and leaving the two of them alone in the dark hallway as the victim desperately tries to escape while being chased with the sharp tool. Suddenly, the attacker lunges forward with a sharp, deadly swipe to wound the victim. The girl tries to run but gets yanked down by her hair and slams onto the floor, where the other girl pins her down, threatens to cut her with a sharp blade, and even blackmails her about her sick mother, causing the girl to push her away in a fit of rage, which knocks the box cutter loose and leads the attacker to cut herself and blame the girl while a teacher rushes in to separate them and take them to the principal. The sign above the principal's office shows where trouble is about to start, and inside, the student says she did nothing wrong while the teacher keeps asking questions. The aggressor grins with victory while the girl cries in despair, but when her parents arrive, the teacher ignores them with disgust, punishes her with a huge essay, and respects the aggressor's father instead, even insulting the crying girl's deaf parents before grabbing her hair for a final beating, kicking her out of her dorm because she is always causing trouble, and telling her to stay quiet since the bully's family is powerful, leaving the girl clutching her fist and filled with anger. Inside the car, the father scolds the girl for the school trouble, humbles her by boasting about his mistress's daughter, and then hits her while complaining about the company's reputation. But as she walks alone across the yard and gets thrown to the floor in a dark hallway, she realizes she must protect that reputation at all costs, leading her to grab a box cutter with tears in her eyes and make a drastic decision while the red liquid drips, all while the rest of the school goes on as normal. And a kind classmate offers her medicine on a sunny day. Suddenly, a knock on the classroom door snapped everyone's attention back to the room. The aggressor and her group stand at the door, calling for the victim to come out, so the girl grips her pen tight, rises, and follows them down the hall to a private spot while her classmates watch from the classroom with worried eyes as the girl disappears from her desk. The victim walks back into the classroom with a bruised face and messy hair, then sits at her desk and hides her face behind a book. A classmate rushes over to ask if she got hurt, but she lies and says it was an accident to avoid trouble, only for a pen cap to fly off and smash in her head while others start bouncing around and hitting students. So she claims she caught a cold and needs medicine, but the young man tells her to go to the nurse's office now, and she agrees to wait until after class before leaving as the sun sets, painting the sky with colorful clouds. The victim walks alone through a dark alley with a sad expression, her bruised face and tired eyes reflecting her hopeless journey, until a young man with a tiger tattoo suddenly grabs her and stops her in her tracks. She screams to get away, but he ignores her until she slaps him hard and demands he let go, only for him to get furious, hurt her, and slam her into the wall before turning with hate toward the helpless girl. In the hallway, a person hangs lifeless by their neck with empty eyes staring out. As the aggressor and her friends descend the stairs chatting about the event, one girl spots the hanging body and screams in terror, grabbing the other's attention. The aggressor turns around and stares in shock at the pale, lifeless face that freezes her in silence. While back in the present, she curls up in bed denying her role, blaming everyone for the death and refusing to believe the truth as the victim's ghost suddenly appears to startle her. The ghost's terrifying face freezes the girl in fear, but when it vanishes, she realizes it was just a prank and gets mocked by her laughing friends. Suddenly, the girl jumps off the building and falls toward the ground. A frightened girl runs down a dark hallway, checks the mirror in the bathroom, and sees a scary shadow with red eyes staring back before hiding in a corner as a ghostly hand grabs her, chases her, and finally pulls her down just as pranksters appear and watch her with confusion while she stares in terror at monsters only she can see before fainting and waking up in bed with real cuts on her hands, remembering how her father once hit her for her appearance while other students run outside. He decides she must go home and bans her from school. Then, furious at her defiance, chokes her and threatens her while dragging her away from everyone's eyes in front of the school. The bald man and the protagonist then walk across the yard in their uniforms, and the leader asks if the young man found a location before they follow a maid to a luxurious mansion that the hero admires, but the bald man warns is just an illusion. After following the maid through the garden and preparing for what they might find, the girl bangs on a glass window with a bruised face, pleading and screaming for help as she punches the glass desperately. Suddenly, a hand grabs her from behind and pulls her inside the mansion, and she stares in wide-eyed terror at her captor while the two observers realize the whole scene was built around her. The young man wonders if the girl's father really lived this way in the real world, and when the maid invites them in to wait for the owner, a huge, fancy mansion rises from the land, catching everyone's eye. The hero sees the man's hateful glare and realizes he wants a family, so he coldly tells him to live with his choices and get no pity. And then as the two walk through the garden to plan their next move, the bald man confirms the target is inside, and they will strike that night while the young man watches the window for orders and lies on the grass complaining until the bald man scolds him for not trying harder. The two creep toward the big house, getting ready to sneak inside without making a sound. The bald leader whistles for the young man to carry a whistle for emergencies, and as the hero watches the expert scale the wall with ease, he hides when the girl's father's voice calls out, only to be dismissed with a sneer and told to stay away. From his hiding spot, the hero sees the father shove the girl down and scold her for being rebellious, while she stares back with a bruised face and hatred, refusing to listen even as he raises a belt to punish her for shaming the family name. He chokes her while telling her to leave, and though she struggles to break free, the sound of shattering glass echoes through the mansion as her sister and stepmother rush in to stop the abuse. The girl pushes her sister away in anger, and while the father prepares first aid, she watches in silence, feeling like a failure compared to her perfect, beloved sister as the stepmother blames her for being a problem since she arrived. Kneeling on the cold floor, she thinks hard about her life and the mess her father made. The sister rushes to her mother, whispering that something awful has happened and begging her for help. The stepmother soothes the girl and tells her not to fear the other's troubles, and the protagonist realizes why she acts so strangely before hearing a noise and turning to find his father's body slumped on the floor as the girl laughs in terror, her eyes burning with hatred as she celebrates his death with a smile, then runs out of the mansion in a trance-like, euphoric state while the young man tries to calm her down but fails. So he whistles to get the leader's attention to warn him about the danger as the bald man stands up and hears the warning that the girl has lost all control. Then she sinks into a swamp and struggles to stay above the surface while the leader tells her she must either come back with them or face her fate there, causing the protagonist to feel frightened and confused as the bald man yells that the ground is giving way and they must escape quickly because it is a special fluid that requires them to move slowly. But the young man, they lie down and crawl slowly across the ground to get away from the quicksand. After the bald man grabs a safe spot and shouts for the young man to crawl to him, while ghostly hands drag the girl into the swamp where she sinks despite her pleas, the two watch her disappear into the dark mud, and the bald man calls it a fitting end as a ghostly voice says they will now be together, forcing them to run for the bus, just before the collapsing dimension reveals that it all started when the creature's wish came true. With a clenched fist, the young man sprints to escape. The bus looms ahead as they both rush toward it, but the path turns to swamp and he slips right into the mud. After the bald man pushes the young hero into the expanding swamp and declares that selfishness is the only rule to survive, the young man gets up, draws his blade, and strikes the leader down, then leaps across the treacherous water to safety on the other side of the bus. His hand was bleeding from the hard work, but he managed to survive the challenge. The bald man stared in shock that the young man was still alive, and the young man smiled with relief to say luck was finally on his side. The bus doors swing open, and the two hop aboard for the next leg, with the young man claiming the last part was easy while the bald man insists that surviving is what truly matters. The leader tells him to wait a few more rounds, because he'll soon see just how important the resources really are. As the hero stares at his arm and sees the wound sealed with just one drop of medicine, he realizes how powerful the supplies are and decides to keep the bald man alive to solve the mystery, while the leader explains that the system keeps filling empty spots just to maintain a minimum number of people. The bus roars forward, its tires churning fast against the dark, mysterious road. A new passenger boards the bus, and the bald man spots him as a newcomer. And as the young man wonders about their return and a chance to escape, he realizes it's a trap and that the game masters are sharper than they look. So with his arms crossed, he decides to gather info to survive. Then 3 more new passengers arrive, and the bald man greets them by welcoming them to the bus from hell and asking for their names, which startles them and makes them think he's crazy, so they introduce themselves, and one complains about the long walk to the stop, but the bald man ignores him, tells them to sit in the back, and watches with disdain as one newbie refuses to stay and tries to get off, only for the leader to warn that it will trigger a penalty, so the desperate man shouts for the driver to let him out. His eyes were wide with terror as the newcomer couldn't make sense of the chaos around him. He glances at the driver's seat and sees the bus is all alone. Then, a robotic voice suddenly shouts that we must sit down because the ride has started. The man slips from the bus's sudden jerk, nearly hitting the ground, only to be struck instantly by a blue electric shock that sends pain racing through his whole body as he lies there screaming for help while the jolts keep coming. The protagonist then told me the seats are insulated and that he should have just sat down. The other 2 newcomers feel a wave of relief now that they've obeyed the bald man's commands. The man drags himself with great effort to a seat and asks what that bus is. The second newcomer also panics and begs for an answer to this strange mess. So the bald man finally decides to explain the game they've been forced to play, while another man puts his hands on his head in disbelief as the leader lights a cigarette and reveals that everyone there is a condemned sinner. He explains that everyone there hides a dark past behind their normal looks. With a tight fist, the hero learns that every soul picked for this journey is guilty, but the newbies shout back that they are good people like doctors and helpers, only for the system to announce the next stop has arrived and everyone must leave the bus, revealing from above that the bus is stopped on a road deep in a thick forest. And when the protagonist steps out, he remarks that the quietness of that place feels very strange. The group hikes deeper into a forest where the trees tower over them like giants. The hero's heart sinks because he has no idea which dangerous creatures might be hiding in that place. They keep walking down the forest path as the sun lights up the way ahead. The bright sun and clear blue sky painted a pretty picture, but something about it felt just a little bit off. Suddenly, a singing voice makes the hero feel strange. So the bald man jokes about playing a game while staying sharp, but then thick fog rolls in and scares the new members until their leader pulls out a rope to keep them from getting lost. The men tie themselves to the rope to stay together, while the fog makes it easy to get lost. A bald man guides a tied-up group through a foggy forest, but one newbie trips on a rock, screams in pain from a deep leg cut, and calls for help until a hero uses a miraculous remedy that instantly heals the wound, leaving everyone in shock. Once the man is healed, the group keeps moving through the strange forest, with a leader shouting for them to hurry before stopping later to eat and rest. The new members soon start complaining about being tired and wondering how far they still have to go, until one of them suddenly screams as an invisible force violently drags him backward by a ghostly, branch-like hand. Lying on the ground with wide, white eyes, he points behind him in terror, claiming he saw a ghost, only for another newbie to laugh and say ghosts don't appear during the day while pointing out a familiar tree. This reveals that the whole group has been walking in circles without getting anywhere, so the bald man worries and suggests they need to clear a path to guide themselves. Without hesitation, the leader grabs a newbie's expensive jacket to use as a marker, causing the owner to complain loudly until the big guy knocks him down and demands to know if his life is worth less than a simple piece of cloth. The young woman introduces herself as Haruka and promises safety, but while the newbies are relieved and hungry, the 2 men stay suspicious and shadow her with bated breath, only to find themselves drawn into a feast where they refuse to eat while the others gorge themselves, eventually leaving the naive newcomers behind as their own inner conflict erupts into a violent street fight where a wicked red-clad dancer declares the winner hers. And the fight rages on with one man falling and the other ready to strike the final blow. Without even a second to think, the man grabs a wooden plate off the ground and uses it as a weapon. With a furious look, he raises the plate to strike his fallen rival, and the heavy blow knocks the man unconscious, causing red blood to flow from his head as his friend rushes to help, while a young woman gently cleans the winner's face before declaring him her husband and leading him away, leaving the friend to plead with the injured man not to go as they walk off together, only for the man to wake up later with a bandaged head and a bald friend warning him that all the women want to see him gone, leading to a heated argument where the friend tries to calm the annoyed man down before they both leave to search for the missing woman in the village. With a set jaw, the hero trails the leader, doing exactly as told. As they walk along, they spot women scrubbing the floor with cloths and blindfolds, and when the young man asks if they've seen his friend, they seem like they can't hear him at all. One of them then admits she didn't see anyone because she wasn't paying attention. The bald man growls at the empty space, mocking the other guy as a lovesick fool, and soon the dark sky takes over, leaving only the moon and stars to light up the quiet village. The group keeps hunting for the missing man while walking through the dark village streets. The hero dashes through the village, looking for clues to find the new arrival. The other two join him and split up to search different spots. But after the leader checks the roof for clues and finds nothing, the group reunites, tired and confused about where the man could have gone, until the two men suggest giving up while the bald man calls them idiots, only for the protagonist to remind them the bus won't leave until everyone is safe, impressing the leader with his smart plan to ask the residents for help. Even though the happy couple nearby refuses, leaving the protagonist to look at the grumbling leader with no easy answer. With a tight fist, the man with glasses glares angrily at the group, but the bald man grabs his collar, his friend screaming to stop, until the pressure forces him to agree to help, only for the leader to throw him down and demand he move immediately while his friends rush to aid him and the others watch as night falls and fog rolls over the wooden village. The man taps his trembling fingers against the wooden door to get the woman's attention. Holding a flower, he invites Haruka inside and peeks through the crack while his friends watch from afar, only to see a kneeling woman who melts his heart and pulls him into the room with a glowing, magical flower that makes him feel like he's on cloud nine. Outside, the leader sees the young man lost to love as a woman who claims to adore him suddenly transforms into a hungry monster that bites his shoulder, only for a shadow with spikes to attack them, while the leader stops his friend from helping. And just as a giant blue shadow crashes down and drags the injured man away, the protagonist awakens with glowing blue eyes, shouts to his team, and charges at the beast while running through the village before stopping to gaze in shock at the sky. Suddenly, a crowd of residents with torches surrounds them, and while the hero warns that they are monsters, his friend is handed dynamite by the leader, but overcome by nausea and horror at seeing worms instead of food, he drops the explosive and fails to launch it. Then the food turns into a nasty, gross meal crawling with worms and tiny bugs. Suddenly, the drink turns to a dark, foul liquid, choking the friend while the bald man drags him away. But as a newbie blows up the monster horde, one dead creature stands up to scream, revealing they are immortal and rising again, forcing everyone to keep firing. With their fingers still on the triggers, they keep firing until a strange noise breaks the silence. The leader realizes there's no ammo left, and the newbie panics until the big guy grabs him by the shirt and hurls him at the monsters as bait. Stopping to rest, the bald man warns them not to use light so they don't attract the creature, then kneels to take a remedy from his pack to use first while the hero stares at his hand, wondering why a small scratch hurts so much before realizing the leader has the same injury and is using up all the medicine, prompting the hero to grab the bottle and take it with a serious look since he already expected such selfishness from the bald man. But when the hero pours the liquid, he finds it isn't enough, so the bald man asks how he is, and the hero thanks him, saying it's just a scratch, while the leader remarks that the young man has gotten stronger, and the young man says it was just luck, only for the hero to warn him that if the poison spreads, he'll be next, leading the young man to tell him to stay useful and the bald man to agree, though the bald man gets annoyed about not finding the other group yet, while he reveals that his adrenaline is pumping and the pain makes him stronger. So he holds up a blade to the leader and asks if he thinks he can beat him, just before a sudden purple energy blasts out of the cave and hits him without warning. A white monster wearing a blindfold charges forward with terrifying anger to hit the young man. His eyes flare with a fierce blue light as he readies himself for the fight. He slices the beast right in two with a fast, exact strike from his sharp blade. The monster shatters into two pieces, but the hero watches closely as purple tentacles burst out from its belly, only to see the beast stitch itself back together and spring up to attack. The young man knows he must run if he can't win, but just then a bald man seizes his leg to stop him from leaving, and in his panic, the leader begs him not to let the monster take the bald man alone. The hero gives an ironic smile and asks if they're really leaving the leader behind. The young man grabs the bald leader, drags him away from the chasing creatures, and they sprint through the dark cave as the shadowy monsters give chase. As they move forward, they spot red-eyed white rats watching, and the bald man trips on a rock, falling, so the hero tosses him toward the monsters as a decoy while hearing a familiar scream from a missing friend down in the cave, where two others lie near a giant egg, and the hero shushes the panicked man with glasses to avoid waking the monsters. The man screams in desperation while the hero yells for him to stop, and the young man angrily regrets saving such fools after the leader accuses him of wasting supplies. But they soon prepare for rescue as the bald man notices the hero has changed, leading the hero to toss a rope for the man to climb up as the glasses wearer kicks his begging companion, who tries to stop him, only for the climber to mercilessly step on his hand and tell him to save himself since there's no hope left, and win. The hero asks if anyone else is there. The liar claims he's alone until a white creature suddenly appears from behind, striking him with its claws and throwing him into the air while the hero watches in shock as the young man struggles to pull him back against the creature's tight grip, even as the hanging man screams in fear and despair, finally forcing the determined hero to use every ounce of his strength to save him. Suddenly, the giant egg shatters to reveal a white phoenix-like beast, and to everyone's shock, the woman in red from the village appears smiling while the village monsters reveal their frightening true forms. Without wasting time, the hero ties a rope to a rock, but as more phoenixes appear, he yells for others to climb alone. Terrified, a man scrambles up while a bald ally warns they have no ammo left, and the leaders leap down to fight with only their blades. Soon the bald man is swarmed and screaming for help, while the hero stands ready with a sword, dodges a strike with an acrobatic flip, slips midair, and grabs onto a climber's leg, causing the climber with glasses to shout that he's being dragged down. The hero calls him ungrateful, but the climber insists it's natural to save yourself first, forcing the hero to use his blade to climb the cave wall alone while the other stays on the rope, even as the man blames the hero for the monsters and the hero tells him to shut up, just as the creatures suddenly turn away and fly toward the back of the cave. Down in the fiery pit, a woman in red is engulfed by flames as birds swoop toward her, while other women emerge from the fire for a strange ritual, leaving a man on the ground begging for rescue, only to be met with cold disgust and a cruel step on his chest. Forcing him to scream in pain as she reveals her revenge is born from a memory of once peaceful winged creatures living near a crystal river until humans arrived with machines and chainsaws to destroy their forest home. One of the girls pulls out her phone and begins filming the whole forest getting destroyed. After the workers slap the girl and knock her phone down, a male student steps up to punch the man, sparking a fierce fight where the workers brutally assault the students until they're all bruised and beaten, while the defeated group sits on a log with sad, injured faces and a couple in the distance decides to post the video online. A boss later argues with the worker who tried to apologize, scolding him and taking the blame himself while smiling and giving the worker one last chance to fix things. The boss scolds the worker for the mess and demands that he take charge. Desperate, the man begs not to go to jail, so the boss offers to protect his children instead. Though shocked, he accepts and takes the blame, while the boss watches from above with a cold heart, only to be later revealed as the true villain who sacrificed a rare bird and innocent people for his own park, all while his real crimes remain hidden until justice finally catches up with him. Without a second thought, the businessman grins as he gets ready to shoot the final bird. As the bird's feathers drift through the air and the words "revenge" flash on the screen, the woman shouts for her friends to join her because the day has finally come, and with a terrifying grin and dark eyes, she transforms into a scary monster. Birds swarm around him as the man screams for them to stop while a dark force strikes his chest, but the man with glasses thinks the monster only wants the boss and will let him go, only for the hero to warn him not to talk to a monster before the hero slips on the wall, and the man agrees to climb faster after the hero offers to make him leader if he helps. Suddenly, the hero zooms past him, scales the wall with amazing speed, and from the top sees the other man struggling to climb slowly, only for that man's fingers to slip and send him tumbling off the edge. Unable to hold on, the hero slides back to the cave floor where the shocked group leader wonders how he gained such strength, only for the hero to reveal he traded his own life points for medicine from the poison bald man, proving that underestimating an ally is far more dangerous than an enemy, before effortlessly lifting the furious leader to teach him the meaning of being hunted. A swarm of white birds dives down to attack him as he screams that he didn't kill them, but the creatures chase him while the hero drags the bald man back, causing the group leader to break away and run into the bird flock to sacrifice himself just as they surround him. Suddenly, the hero punches the air and blasts the birds away, leaving the onlooker in shock while the bald man begs to be left alone only for the creatures to rip off his arm, sending the scene back 3 years to a room where the bald man threatens a fallen man with a blade for interfering, and despite the man's injury and pleas to leave, the big guy strikes him down without hesitation. Back in the present, the bald man lies injured on the ground as the woman declares that 2 of them are already dead and commands her fire-winged birds to hunt down those who ran, screaming that none will escape her revenge. In the forest, the hero and the man with glasses sprint away while the other begs him to stop, only for the glasses man to chase after the protagonist and shout that the young man is now the leader, which the hero quickly silences. With a serious look, the protagonist feels something terrible is coming before the pair stops in a clearing for the hero to watch as blackbirds swoop down. only for a ghost woman to appear and command them to kill everyone, claiming human flesh will help her kind thrive. Terrified, the man with glasses flees through the forest while white birds circle him, and he screams for help from the new leader just as the monster woman, grinning wickedly, tells the hero to leave before he draws his blade and leaps to strike her, but she dodges and slashes his shoulder anyway, only to realize she's hurt too and mockingly call him just a human while declaring this world hers to conquer. She grabs his face, saying humans have only two choices, and threatens to wipe them all out with her claws near his neck, but suddenly white feathers drift down from the sky just as the hero lies on the ground, pulls out a hidden weapon, and fires at her, shocking her, and he fires his weapon one more time to prove it was worth the cost, then hurls a pack of dynamite at the attacking birds, causing a massive explosion that forces both men to sprint toward the bus stop. As they leave a trail of destruction behind them while the bird bodies fall, a terrified woman warns that humans are helpless against them and vows to stop their escape no matter what, while the man with glasses cries out that the creatures are chasing them. The hero urges him to keep running, promising safety once they reach the bus, but the blackbirds continue their relentless pursuit until a bus suddenly appears, offering a final chance to flee. Just as a giant shadow strikes the protagonist, he quickly repels the attack and throws the creature away, only for the monster to roar that it will destroy all of humanity, leaving the hero to face the final battle with determined courage. The creature hisses for the young man to leave as black tentacles burst from his hands, but the hero leaps aside to save the woman, who crashes to the floor, leaving the young man to draw his sword and strike down the fallen monster. With the sword in hand, the young man leaps and strikes the creature with a precise blow that instantly splits it in two, but as he stands over the severed head on the ground, the creature defiantly claims it cannot be finished, prompting the hero to question the insult with a cold glare before the terrified beast screams, "No." As the blade approaches, without hesitation, the hero delivers a final precise blow to its head, while nearby a man with glasses is relentlessly attacked by white birds, until the creatures disperse and white feathers float slowly in the air, only for him to look up and see the hero standing with his back turned, sword ready, as the man asks if the young man defeated the monster and where that sword came from, revealing that he traded for it in the system, a claim the man with glasses does not believe, leading him to ask the new leader to explain the rules of this strange world. But the hero gets on the bus while the man gets annoyed at his tone with a serious look. The main character lets it slip that he is just as caught up in the same trap as everyone else. Suddenly, a black shadow rises from the bus floor and swallows the fallen man, leaving the young guy wide-eyed and wondering what's going on inside. The shadow twists into a scary monster, and the man yells out that this is his punishment. As the man chokes on the creature's black smoke and gets flung into the air, the hero calls it a punishment for ignoring the system's rules, just as the survivor desperately shouts that he's a doctor who saves lives, before a holographic screen suddenly pops up for the two people on the bus. The screen reveals just two people are left, with scores of 15 and 80. The man complains about his low score, but the hero just flirts and begs, then offers his points to the other young men in hopes of becoming their new leader. However, the hero refuses the offer, insisting he doesn't want the points or the leadership role, which worries the man who fears things won't be fair. So the screen shows the damage points, and the hero realizes he has over 100 thanks to his poison and injuries, prompting him to access his private space to stock up on food, medicine, and weapons while the other man is stuck with only vegetables and baseball gear, until supplies suddenly appear in a backpack that acts like a pocket dimension, causing the bus to stop and the man to celebrate their escape from that world, only for the hero to think he's tried this experiment before and wonder why the former leader never got off at a normal bus stop. In the shadowy bus, the man dashes to the door in a desperate escape while the hero watches. Suddenly, a dark hand snatches his shoulder, and the man spins around in sheer terror.